The longest tributary of the Amazon River, the Apurimac, begins here in the mountains of Peru. After I hiked out to its origin, I continued exploring down the river. I was amazed to find that just downstream exists one of the most mysterious landscapes in the world, the site of a massive fortress that rivals Machu Picchu, that was only rediscovered 30 years ago. A place that might prove a 500-year-old legend to be true. As I drove down the river towards Cusco, I would proceed to have one of the wildest weeks of my life, during which time I somehow got caught up in an ancient battle taking place in 2026.
Please, stop! Para, por favor!
But nothing compared with the final destination of my trip. I had spotted a series of astounding ruins on Google Earth, on a gigantic spine of rock, overlooking the Apurimac River.
Look at that. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
We start our journey just 30 miles downstream of the source. This area is completely unlike anywhere else within hundreds of miles. The Apurimac and two other streams intersect in a small mountain basin composed of soft volcanic rock. The result is an incredibly complex canyon country within a very small area. In the direct center lies the crown jewel of the valley. But first, I had identified some side plateaus that I wanted to explore. The base elevation is around 14,000 feet above sea level.
Some of these big mesas were used as defensive locations, so there's ruins on the top of some of them. Hola. It's a Peruvian tui. Let's go for a walk. We're at a huge archaeologic site. It's one of the predecessor civilizations that came leading up to the Incas.
The ruins I'm walking through cannot be pinpointed to any specific society or timeline. The Incas came last, so we know most about them. Much of the mystery in this place lies in the sheer obscure depth of human occupation that came and went here over thousands of years. Many battles were fought over these defensive locations. What we do know about these structures, especially the small circular ones, is truly fascinating.
Estas vacas, mío.
Aquí?
Sí,
Muy bien.
mi casa es.
They literally herd their cows through this pasture with 1,000-year-old ruins on it. Wonderful, nice people. I need to brush up on my Spanish. Look at this falcon on the rock.
There's a strange thing that I've started to notice at ancient sites. There's almost always one animal there, watching you.
Two can play at this game, Mr. Falcon.
This one might be a mountain caracara.
He's got white wingtips, but he's almost all black. What are you doing? What a crazy place. Get down from there. You're making me nervous. That is exactly what Tui would do to me. He'll run up a rock and get himself stuck. Whoa. This was definitely carved. Look at that shape. What? I think that was almost certainly sculpted by humans. This is the normal cave. Sort of dead ends at this wall. And then These walls are incredibly smooth. Wow. I just found this place with a geotag that says Pinturas Restrepas, which means cave paintings. So of course I had to come check it out, but this is on another level. So this is the really incredible aspect of Peru. There's a lot of stoneworking that is to be found all across the Andes, and it's very hard to pinpoint who did it and how old it is. You know, so something like this could be pretty recent, or it could be thousands and thousands of years old. This is kind of the case for most of Peru. It has some of the most deep history of any country in the world. Outline of a human. Another one. So some of these cave paintings in this area are extremely old, anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 years. So this is the incredible aspect of where the Amazon begins. The whole area is just steeped in human history. We're at almost 14,000 feet of elevation, and yet it has a very desert-like feel to it. It almost feels like the American Southwest. Incredible series of grinding pits. This one's pretty cool. Looks like there was a channel carved between the two. I didn't get to say goodbye to my Peruvian tui.
Of all the aspects of old Peruvian culture, the closeness to the deceased was most fascinating to me. It is there, watching from all the hillsides.
Just spotted something while driving down the road. So this is an example of a chulpa. It was used to store human remains. Very traditional burial practice found in Peru. It's very reminiscent, something like a granary you'd find in the American Southwest. Onwards down the Apurimac we go.
Historically, the people around here were not as afraid of our inevitable end as modern Western cultures are. They understand it more as a transfer to another realm. There are a lot of puzzling references in written Peruvian history as to how much the Inca society communed with their dead. It was said that the living King Inca was often challenged and overruled by the orders of the mummified Incas. Traditionally, the bones of non-elite class were placed into holes in hillsides, canyons, and mountain valleys, which means often when you are in the backcountry, you are surrounded by human remains under your feet, over your head. They are everywhere. Confluences have always been places of deep significance, especially this one, where ample water and fertile floodplains combines with fortress-like geology. You could imagine during peak occupation, the valleys here were filled with crops, the perfect place for a powerful society to flourish.
So we're climbing to one of the top of these mesas. A lot of the land in the valleys of Peru is privately owned, and that does complicate things. However, if you establish a good rapport with the landowner, you tell them your intentions, oftentimes they'll allow you to enter their property and hike through it if you pay them. You have to approach it very respectfully. You can't just arrive on their property with money in your hand demanding to enter. It's a way to support the local area you're seeing. All right, we made it to the top of one of these plateaus. This is all volcanic tuff. Big ash deposits from an eruption from one of the many volcanoes south of the Andes. Wow, there are so many stone structures on the top of this. It always amazes me how similar the food processing techniques are across the world, no matter where you find it.
Maize, potatoes, and grains like quinoa were the staples of the diet around here.
There's just countless rock walls everywhere and deep, bedrock morteros. One of the best indicators of a size of a population that lived at an ancient site is how deep and how numerous are those bedrock morteros, because it's a direct correlation with how much food they would have processed. So this site is on top of a giant volcanic mesa that was created by the carving motion of these three rivers that intersected. The Apurimac River flows directly underneath this mesa. And they fought for control of these defensive locations. Ultimately, the Incas won, and then they turned it into a strategic outpost. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yep, these are the biggest morteros I will probably ever see in my lifetime. These are unbelievable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't believe this. It's a handle from a pot. These pits they're incredibly symmetrical. Almost perfectly circular. As far as I understand, there would have been 2, maybe even more people grinding up food together. They would have had long wooden poles, and they would have been mashing different types of food, perhaps moving it into another bowl for different stages of the preparation process. The amount of years it must have taken for these bedrock pits to reach such a depth is almost impossible to comprehend. You know, it almost feels like a kitchen. If you look right here, you can see there's also a sort of a flat, almost table-like rock structure right here. So the place is sort of like a big kitchen. Check out the thunderstorms rolling in. It's quite common around here.
There's a clear pattern in much of their work. Perfect circles, symmetry. Made me wonder if underneath all that dirt, the structure I found continues down in a complete cylinder.
I'm staying with a family right now, and they're the most lovely, wonderful people. It seemed like after COVID, tourism of this area really dropped off a cliff. That's what the family told me. If you do come here, make sure to stay with the family Mayutinku. It's just south of this town called Soikotambo. Wool sheets, the sound of a river running outside, and fresh air. So much better than any hotels. This is part of a family's ranch. They do not like to be touched. He knows he's been caught.
Sí, no se deja.
Oh, un año.
Sí, un año. Es jovencito.
Hola. Jovencito?
Sí. Sí, así puedes. Otro lado miramos así.
Hola, jovencito. Gracias. Wow. That's a little baby. He's very strong.
Para que no le come el zorro, porque suena que el zorro viene, se no puede matar.
I like that. Oh.
This is a chicken.
So cute. You good boy. You good boy.
It's important for me to state that among the sparse information about this place, there is a remarkable amount of differing narratives and speculation. Even the Ministry of Culture signage on site contradicts with information seen elsewhere. The full truth of this place is yet to be known. And I am certainly not an archaeologist or an expert.
So there's only one way up to the top of this mesa. The rest of it is impenetrable cliffs. And that's why they chose to build their biggest defensive fortress on the top of it. This is the only path to the top. So look, they found skulls here with cranial trepanation. It's one of the wildest aspects of the ancient history of Peru. They used to practice brain surgery and it had an over 60% success rate. They would cut holes in people's skulls and they'd patch over it with copper or gold, alongside cranial modification where they'd elongate the skulls of children. So these staircases leading up the side of the mesa, they have these footprints in them. They're in the perfect shape of a cameloid footprint. You can see the two-pronged hoof appearance, this indentation in the rock. It's like a perfect alpaca print. This was created from hundreds of years of leading alpacas up and down.
The archaeologic complex on the top of this mesa and the surrounding area is at least 3 times larger than Machu Picchu. At least 2,000 years of human occupation has been proven, starting with the Wari, who constructed the original road network. Extensive evidence of weapons, projectile points, and injuries found in skeletal remains indicate extensive conflicts starting far in the past and possibly right up until the end of the Inca Empire. We can only see the remains of the bottom foundations of these structures. Researchers believe this is the foundation of a huge ceremonial temple with a central fountain. It was unearthed in 2023 by a team of archaeologists led by Emerson Pereira in a series of huge discoveries here that may indicate this is one of the most overlooked and significant archaeologic sites in the world.
Each of these bricks has a curvature to it. And because of that, they're able to make these almost perfectly circular structures.
I want you to ask yourself, what would something of this size and dimensions be useful for? Such thick walls, all to encase barely a 2-foot wide cylinder of space. Some were food storage. Many were found with mummies inside. They're called funerary towers. Imagine if the skeletons of your grandparents were stuffed into a big cabinet in the middle of your living room, just hanging out with you while you're watching YouTube videos. That's how they did it around here. Compared with an indigenous tradition like that of the Navajo or Dene of North America, nothing could be further.
Where you look. It's really fascinating to me. It's such an established archaeologic site, and there's still potsherds and artifacts all across the ground. All right, so here's the Apurimac. Somewhere up there in the mountains is where the source was and where we were a couple days ago.
This site sat largely overlooked under dense vegetation up until the 1990s. Excavations only started within the last 30 years that revealed an astounding volume of structures. There's still a ton to be found out here. Here's where it gets interesting and the stuff of legends. In 2019, hundreds of tiny gold, silver, and copper ornaments were discovered, which may have been woven into the garments of Inca royalty. Suddenly, this fortress seemed less likely to be a remote, military-only Inca outpost. The artifacts have aroused speculation that Tacrochuyo is the lost city of Aconcagua. In the 1500s, Spanish chronicler and conquistador Pedro Cieza de Leon described a sacred Inca fortress high in the Andes Plateau, a large and significant population center where Inca elites lived among spectacular temples, one of the final strongholds of the Inca. It contained lots of the Spanish's favorite thing, for which they destroyed countless beautiful civilizations in South America for: gold. The story says that the Spanish laid siege on Aconcagua, and when the invaders finally broke through, many chose to leap from the cliffs rather than surrender. That story certainly could have taken place here. Hundreds of years after the Spanish occupation, the specific location was lost to time and became a place of mythology. Yet, at Tacrochuyo, after years of excavation, no definitive trace of the Spanish has ever been found here, which adds to the immense uncertainty of tying this place into the Spanish story told 500 years ago. That also raises the question, how many other places are like this out there yet to be discovered?
Wow, there's potsherds everywhere.
You may not believe me, but I had no idea what I was stumbling into when I visited this area around New Year's Eve of 2025-2026. I simply spotted it on a map during my deep dive into the source of the Amazon River and decided to visit. In June 2026, National Geographic ran a front-page article on Tacrochuyo.
Vamos a espinar. Oh my god, this drive is stunning. Feels like we're in the Shire right now. Only problem is that this is a Peruvian highway right here. And it just rained, so it's muddy and slippery. So we're approaching the Sacred Valley. The mountains are becoming more green. Look at this.
Here's the best part of exploring Peru. You're in complete disbelief of the astounding beauty while trying not to have a panic attack.
I'm fortunate enough to say I've been on some pretty incredible drives in my life. This one I think takes the cake.
I was enjoying the drive so much that I completely let my guard down and was about to make a very dumb move. I I was on my way to the Queso rope bridge, which crosses the Apurimac River. It is the last remaining true Inca rope bridge, which there used to be thousands of, spanning massive chasms as a part of the unbelievable Inca road network. Every year it is torn down to be woven with fresh, living grass rope. The locals are among the last people on Earth to possess the knowledge of how to make a true rope bridge. It is only accessible via these remote mountain roads, along which live deeply traditional Peruvian communities.
There's some kind of event going on. There's a bunch of people running and yelling across the side of this hill. What is going on?
I don't know. Yo soy un turista. I'm going. Please, stop. Para, por favor. Let me turn, please. I'm stuck. Could you give me a push?
There's people swinging.
Hey, yo. Dude, I don't know. Let me go.
Entonces vete rápido, vete.
Sir.
Yeah. I was just, what the? I was just attacked. The car was kicked and hit by like a swinging mace. Hola. ¿Qué es? Costumbre? Sí, es normal. La carro es el problema.
No hay que, tengo un dedo, no.
Ya, y aquí
Ah, no hay que carros, no, por eso escapan los carros.
es normal.
Normal. Juegan, el 20 es más lleno. 20 de enero. Ya.
Did you just mess up this car? Oh my, you're kidding. Are you kidding me? I wonder if I captured that. That was insane. Okay, I just got some service and I managed to do a little bit of research, and we almost certainly just stumbled into what is known as a chiaraje. It is a traditional battle that is held between different communities that live in these parts of the Andes. It's tied into ancient territorial disputes. It is a very, very old tradition that literally dates back to the very types of conflicts I was learning about the last couple days. If there's a chiaraje going on and you go into their territory, they will attack you. So yeah, that's I can't even be mad about it. This is something that happens here every year. It's a pretty interesting event that I will not forget for a long time.
In Cuzco, the heart of the Inca Empire, lies the oldest, most enigmatic stoneworking, megalithic.
Wow. Just had to cross that bridge. That was insanely sketchy.
I had one final place to see. I learned how the Apurimac near Cuzco becomes one of the deepest canyons in the world. I scoured the rim of it on Google Earth, looking for more defensive fortresses.
These roads are nuts. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Alright, we've arrived. Absolutely insane drive to get out here and hike along this ridge. Look at this ridge line. So right there, that's the Apurimac. We've probably traveled a couple hundred miles along its length. Now it's carved these massive canyons. Look at that ancient path leading up to the ruins. This is unreal. It is so beautiful.
The canyon I'm looking into is deeper than the Grand Canyon. Over 9,000 feet or 3,000 meters deep in some places. I literally couldn't comprehend it.
All right, now we're on the Inca Road.
The Apurimac was not just any regular old river. It was considered one of the most sacred rivers to the Inca Empire. Its name, translated from Quechua, Apurimac, means something like where the gods speak. It makes you wonder if somehow they knew this was the furthest end, the termination of the most important river in the world. Its psychedelic beauty has been blowing people's minds for a very long time. The Apu is the spirit of a mountain. When you look at a mountain and feel its immense presence moving your soul, you are feeling the Apu.
All right, we just scaled up the side of this spire of rock. Starting to see some ruins. That was an interesting climb. It started with the Incan road, and then it sort of faded out. Wow. Look at that. Oh my goodness. So that is covered in ruins. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. This was a true Google Earth discovery as well. I was looking along the meanders of the Apurimac River where it nears Cusco when I found this site. So these are ancient steps we're on. This is old Incan road that makes an otherwise completely unclimbable, super slippery hill relatively easy actually. Look at the stairs. So perfect. It's incredible.
This is another pucara, or defensive fortress. This fortress almost certainly had ceremonial purposes, and still does to this day. People from the local communities very likely come here and maintain the site. It is a place of power. They have a saying in Peru that goes something along the lines of, "The mountain eats the ruin." The earthquake potential is through the roof, as the tectonic plates pushing up the Andes Mountains are snapping and popping as the mountains grow higher. The rivers flood, and the hillsides slide constantly. It's impossible to understand how much is waiting to be discovered in places like this. In the brief moment I was here, I felt we know almost nothing. I started to think that the civilizations up here were deeply tied and connected to those down the river in the Amazon jungle, which, as the crow flies, is not so far away. The people moved between the two extremes. The structures being uncovered by LiDAR under the Amazon rainforest may have been related to the very places and cultures I had seen up here. Over the past week, I'd seen the river grow from a trickle in a high mountain basin to a raging torrent in the bottom of a deep chasm. I had, in a way, seen snapshots of an incredible journey water will take along the longest path out to the Atlantic Ocean. It flows down the sides of immense mountains, past countless undiscovered and discovered places, under rope bridges, through an immense canyon, and plunges off the Andes Plateau, and is still at the very beginning of its journey. From here, it will join the thick brown waters that nourish the Amazon rainforest. I will be returning very soon, and I think I know where I'd like to go next.
From here, the river will flow out through the Andes, out to the Amazon rainforest, where it will travel through Brazil and out to the Atlantic Ocean. We're only about 200 to 300 kilometers from its source, but there's just so much history along it. All right, well, we're getting chased out by thunderstorms once again. Anyways, hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, let me know down below. This is Nolan Fisher, aka the POV channel, and have a good rest of your day.